People no longer on speaking terms with their former best friends for life. What happened? This happened when I was 17, my boyfriend was 20, my best friend was 18. I had dated him for 3 years at that point, and my best friend vehemently hated him the entire time. One day she told me my boyfriend had been texting her, and they had plans to meet up that afternoon to have sex, but she couldn't and had to tell me. We went over to his place. She went in first, and I told her to text me when he started making moves. I get the text, knock on his door. He opens and says, "You shouldn't be here," before slamming the door in my face. I knock again, and I say, "I know she's in there. We came together. It's over. We leave together." And that was it for me and him. It was over for her and I when she started dating him a week later. 7 years of friendship gone like that. She was a snake. I guess it was jealousy, or maybe they had been hooking up together long before that. I'm not sure. They aren't together anymore, but they lead similar, unhappy lives. I am with a good man who loves me, and we have been together 6 years now.
A driver was pulled over for speeding. The cop approaches and says, "Do you know how fast you were going?" The driver replies, Yeah, make it quick. I just robbed a bank, and I just lost those cops a few miles back." "Really?" As the cop starts taking notes. "All by yourself?" "Nah, I had a partner, but I shot him. He's in the trunk. I also have to smuggle the 20 kilo of cocaine next to him soon, so can you just please hurry up?" "Yeah, I'm calling for backup." The cop takes the driver's keys and puts him in handcuffs 10 minutes later. 2 squad cars each with a pair of officers arrive and inspect the man's vehicle. They kept looking and looking, but they couldn't find the money, corpse, nor the cocaine. One of the latter cops, the sergeant, goes to the driver to apologize. "I'm sorry to inconvenience you, sir, but our man told us you robbed a bank, killed a man, and was about to smuggle coke." "What? I assure you that a God-fearing man like me will never do any abhorrent deed." "Yes, our mistake. I bet that bastard also said I was speeding." What was the biggest plot twist in your life? I married a girl who implied she would unalive herself if she was without me. I hopped on a cavalcade of abuse and infidelity for 10 years, punctuated with her stints in the institution. I was so stressed out by her that I would literally get heart palpitations before she came home from any of these days. Luckily, I was bailed out when she fell in love with her best friend and took off. I filed for divorce, which took another year because my spiteful ex wanted to punish me by delaying her signature. Borderline personality disorder is not fun. There is a happy ending. However, the divorce finally went through, and I decided to take a little town vacation. I got a nice hotel room and treated myself to an elaborate dinner. When I had finished my fantastic meal, I gushed to the waiter that it was the best I'd ever eaten. She told me that the chef was available if I wanted to meet her. Being the Irish caviar that I am, I gladly accepted. A few minutes later, the chef came to my table, and we had what could only be described as a love at first sight moment. I'm not even sure what we said to each other, if anything, at first. I asked if she was free after her shift, and we have been together ever since. The nun teaching Sunday school was speaking to her class one morning, and she asked the question, "When you die and go to heaven, which part of your body goes first?" Susie raised her hand and said, "I think it's your hands." "Why do you think it's your hands, Susie?" Susie replied, "Because when you pray, you hold your hands together in front of you, and God just takes your hands first." "What a wonderful answer," the nun said. Little Johnny raised his hand and said, "Sister, I think it's your feet." The nun looked at him with the strangest look on her face. "Now, Johnny, why do you think it would be your feet?" Little Johnny said, "Well, I walked into Mommy and Daddy's bedroom the other night. Mommy had her legs straight up in the air and she was saying, 'Oh God, I'm coming.' I gotta tell you, if Dad hadn't pinned her down, we'd have lost her."
What are your cringy I'm not like other girls stories that you're embarrassed about? I always loved dolls and dressing up as a kid. I would spend my free time playing with dolls. But when I went to school, I would scoff at the other girls for playing with dolls. I wanted to be seen as tough and cool for my 10th birthday. My parents worked together to build me some doll furniture. Dad did a lot of woodworking and Mom was good with a sewing machine. Together, they created a cool little wardrobe and bed set for my dolls. They were painted white and had little flower stickers for decoration. I just about cried when I opened my presents, but my friend was sitting right beside me, and I knew if I told my parents I loved the presents, my friend would know I liked dolls. My lies would be undone. So I said, "Thanks, but I don't like dolls. They're for babies." My parents looked so sad. I'm 25 years old and I still feel so guilty 15 years later. A few years ago, I got drunk at a family gathering and I sobbed my dad and apologized for what I said and told him I loved the present. He knew.
A woman goes to the doctor, worried about her husband's temper. The doctor asks, "What's the problem?" The woman says, "Doctor, I don't know what to do. Every day my husband seems to lose his temper for no reason. It scares me." The doctor says, "I have a cure for that. When it seems that your husband is getting angry, just take a glass of water and start swishing it in your mouth. Just swish and swish. But don't swallow it until he either leaves the room or calms down." 2 weeks later, the woman comes back to the doctor, looking fresh and reborn. The woman says, "Doctor, that was a brilliant idea. Every time my husband started losing it, I swish with water. I swish, and he calmed right down." How does a glass of water do that? The doctor says the water itself does nothing. It's keeping your mouth shut. That does the trick. How far did you go in a game of truth or dare? At a friend's house for a sleepover when I was maybe 12 or so. Just me, my brother, and the friend playing truth or dare, really just dare, because truth is lame AF. We were doing the typical shit, making drinks out of condiments and other stuff to chug, putting household items in the freezer, etc. When I was hit with a effing dare bomb, sneak into his sister's room, who was a few years younger than us, go to a personal bathroom, take a shit and leave it. Ninja shit, I'm down. So I left a monster log in her toilet and sneakily waddled back out to the main bathroom to wipe. Can't have toilet paper obstructing the view of that beautiful brown python. The next morning, we woke up to screams. I got a very stern talking to, but I know both my friend's dad and my dad were laughing inside. Also, I was strictly forbidden from entering her room. Totally worth it. What's the biggest plot twist you've seen in real life? Graduated law and got engaged to the girl I had been with through university. We both applied for the same graduate program and ended up working in the same office in Canberra. 3 months before our wedding, I found out she was cheating on me with our mutual boss, and I broke it off with her. Long story short, it got really, really ugly, and the two of us ended up in a very bitter court case over property. Canberra is a pretty small city, and the legal world is pretty bloody small there too. And everywhere I went, I bumped into my ex. It was beginning to seriously get me down her too, as it transpired, and I applied for an Australian government overseas development job in Tuvalu, a Pacific island with about 11,000 population. It's quite a prestigious job to get with only 2 positions offered for a 2-year contract on a rotating basis. I was successful in the application and moved on island to start my posting to discover that my ex was the other successful applicant. I spent the next 2 years sharing a tiny office on a tiny island with a person that I quite honestly loved more than any other in the world. What made the high school legend become a legend? Our history teacher was ex-military and he was absolutely jacked. Like this, I would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an ab roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks, if I can punch you in the stomach and make you flinch, the entire class gets a 100 on the quiz. My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want to effing mess with. Jostisa, class of 1969 at my high school. The guy didn't exist. He was created by a group of my friends as a mid-year transfer student with a totally fabricated deep background that was so smooth. Joe even made the yearbook with a picture unavailable caption.